We will call to order the Board of Trustees regular meeting for February 27th, 2023. And in an effort to make our meetings more efficient, keeping full transparency and consideration of time, when there are large motions to be made due to the recommended action, I will state it for us and then ask a trustee to so move and then second so that we can keep the ball rolling. We are now on item 2B, the adoption of the agenda and approval of the consent agenda items. Is there a motion?
Yes, first of all, I would like to move that we reorder the agenda so that public comments come before the executive session. And the reason for that is we have said many times that we're intent on engaging teachers, parents, students, the community. And I believe that we should have the comments come first before we go into executive session, which may take a long time. And I think it's rude to have people waiting for a long time.
I'll second.
Would you briefly word your motion, please, for our secretary, Dr. Temple, and then Ms. Waters was the second.
I move that we reorder the agenda so that public comments come before the executive session.
Is there discussion?
So Ms. Roberson, if I may speak for you, since you, so Ms. Roberson has laryngitis. She whispered to me a moment ago. And I agree with your statement. So please, at least verbally, say that I'm telling this correctly, or not verbally, but show it, mime it. The concern was that if the public comment is moved earlier in the evening and other folks have decided to come a little later, knowing that executive session is first, they may actually miss their slot to speak. Even though we're trying to do it for them, we actually may inadvertently exclude them.
Right.
Ms. Robertson, okay. And I share that opinion as well.
So basically what y'all saying, we should, moving forward at other meetings, we should executive session later as opposed to, we'll put the public comments before executive session. So, but for this meeting, we should look into stress, keeping it the same.
That will be addressed at our very next agenda meeting. Thank you.
Call for the question.
When you cast your vote, please confirm its accuracy. Thank you. Do you,
Not necessary.
it's not necessary. Thank you.
So I make a motion that we adopt the agenda, but we add the two items that were, should have been included from committee of the whole consent. That would be Bravo Delta and Bravo Alpha to the consent items for this meeting.
I second.
So the motion is made by Mr. Kelly and seconded by Ms. Watley that we adopt the agenda and approve the consent agenda item, adding the two that were left off, BBA, Board Powers and Duties, and BD, Board Officers. Any discussion? And the motion passes unanimously. We are now to item 2C, approval of the minutes. The recommended action is that we approve the minutes of the board meeting for January 23rd, 2023, minutes of the special called board meeting and committee of the whole of February 13th, 2023, and minutes of the special called board meeting and committee of the whole of February 21st, 2023. Does a trustee so move?
I so move.
Mr. Kelly moves and Ms. Watley seconds. Is there discussion?
Yes, I think this is what I was bringing up last week. We're about to approve committee of the whole meeting for February 21st, as well as a special called board meeting and then another special called board meeting. But they are going to say two separate things. So is one going to supersede the other?
Thanks for bringing that up, Mr. Calhoun. I was just pulling up my calendar to try to figure out which one shouldn't be on there.
I think we have to rename one.
Well, they did occur.
Yes,
Some of them occurred in error,
That was-
perhaps.
That was
that was the issue.
executive discussion.
Okay, I'm gonna try this. So there are three things. We have to separate all of them. We can't vote for them together. So January 23rd to be a standalone. And then we need to vote for the 13th and the 21st as standalones. That would make it easier because we may have concerns with individual meetings, but not as a whole.
And we can follow that procedure because we have to vote on this first because it's been moved and seconded.
So Ms. McKinney, I'll withdraw my motion
All right.
and adopt, I got to look up the title, but it's to split the question, a point of
Mhm.
privilege to split the question.
Mhm.
Are you good with that, Ms. Watley?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Then is there a motion to approve the minutes of the board meeting of January 23rd, 2023?
I so move.
And I second.
Any discussion?
Ms. McKinney, it's not coming up. It's not allowing me to add a final resolution, but it carries 8-0 and 1 abstain.
Thank you. All right, is there a motion for dated minutes for a special called board meeting? And please state your date in your motion.
If it's acceptable to the chair, I'd like to keep them in chronological order and make a motion to approve the committee of the whole meeting from the 13th of February.
A second.
Any discussion?
Just for board recollection, that was the one we only did public comments at.
Correct. Thank you. So the motion by Mr. Kelly is to approve the minutes of the committee of the whole meeting for February 13th, 2023, and it was seconded by Ms. Watley.
We have one action item where you can open up the voting for approval of minutes. Therefore, it was used to approve January 23rd, so these will have to be done manually.
Are you all, are you good with an oral vote? All right, we will go numerically.
Aye.
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 So that motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the special called board meeting minutes and committee of the whole minutes from the Tuesday, the 21st of February of.
We missed February 13th, special call.
Board special meeting, 2013.
Don't want to approve that. Those minutes.
They
So the
have-
special called,
I'll do, go ahead.
no, go ahead, sir.
No, well, you've made a motion.
Yeah. you
Yes,
finished
so
yours.
we've got, is there a second for
I'll
Mr.
second it.
Kelly's motion, which is to approve the minutes of the special called board meeting and committee?
Not the special call, the committee of the whole.
Both.
Oh,
The
both.
special
said
called
both.
board
Oh, you
meeting
are lumping them
and the
together.
committee of the whole from 21 February.
Okay, then I'll second that.
And do we need to do that orally as well? Our software and our operations will eventually combine. We'll start and go numerically.
Aye.
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 I'm sorry. Ms.
Ken?
Robertson was trying to give discussion before we started the vote. I apologize. I didn't hear.
Oh.
She said continue.
Your vote?
That's you.
Nah.
Nay.
Nay.
The motion passes 5-4. Are there any other motions in regard to minutes?
Yes, I move to approve the board meeting minutes from February 13th, 2023, discussion.
Is there a second? Did you get that? That's Mr. Calhoun and Ms. Waters, okay?
So from a point
It's
of
discussion, yes.
discussion,
Mhm.
if I may refer to Ms. Palmer, if we were to approve board minutes from the 13th, an action taken on the 13th was antithetical to the board minutes that we just approved on the 21st. There were two board meetings that had different outcomes. If we approve both minutes, what does that do from a legal perspective? Does that impact anything?
It depends on what it is. However, if it was a meeting of a public body, that's what's going to prompt the need to approve or disapprove minutes. So approving doesn't necessarily, it just says that that is what y'all discussed. That is an accurate reflection of the minutes from that meeting.
Understood.
Thank you for that clarification. Mr. Kelly, would you like to repeat that for everyone? The clarification.
Oh, just that that we are affirming that the minutes are accurate representation of what happened.
Mhm.
Are you good for us to, with that? All right. And we will vote numerically. Any other discussion? Okay.
Are we good?
Mr. Grabowski?
I do have a question for Ms. Palmer. Let's say that these minutes document a vote that took place that was later overturned by another vote. Would we get ourselves into legal trouble if we approve these minutes versus disapproving them?
Again, I think it's just a reflection of what was done at the meeting. That it's not, approval of the minutes doesn't say legally that what you did necessarily was correct. I don't know the specifics behind this particular vote. We might need to discuss that in executive for me to be able to answer that with more accuracy.
So would it be okay then to perhaps disapprove these minutes since it's in question?
Is-
If it
May I
accurately
make a-
reflects what was happening at the meeting, I think you have to approve it.
So Madam
If they're
Chair,
accurate.
a point of privilege, I make a motion that we table this until after executive session for tonight's meeting.
A
Table this-
second.
Table
A
this
second.
motion.
But I think what she's saying is that if this actually happened, then if this is correct, reading the way that it was, and we just need to go ahead and approve because we did it. You feel me?
And I think we can take care of anything else in executive session. But the minutes is correct.
Minutes are correct.
And we can deal with anything else in executive session.
So there's now a motion of privilege on the floor that needs to be discussed and voted,
And that's to further discuss this in executive session.
and table this until after executive session.
And we vote on a table. Does table need a second?
Yes.
Which I
Yes,
seconded.
Which was, okay. All right, so the motion is that we table this until after executive session.
It wasn't the original motion on the floor first.
It was
Privilege.
a motion of privilege overrides it. Yeah,
Thank you for asking.
that's right.
Mhm.
No, it was, that's for sure.
Are we clear on the question that we are voting to table the improvement, this last approval until after executive session?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we will vote numerically. Mr. Grabowski,
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Nay.
So it passes. We are on to item 2D, a moment of silence and pledge of allegiance to the flag. To everyone on the Board of Trustees and everyone in the audience, we would like to take a moment to remember several individuals of the Charleston County School District that we've lost since the last board meeting. So if you'll join me in a moment of remembrance for teacher librarian Wendy Taylor, for exceptional educator Brenda Sweat, and former baseball coach Jerry Stutz. Besides mentioning their names, we want to mention our deepest sympathies and condolences to everyone that is related to them and worked with them and remember them. Mr. Grabowski, if you'll please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We are on item 3A, convene an executive session. There is a recommended action to convene executive session to consider items covered by attorney-client privilege. Is there a motion?
I move that we convene into executive session.
Is there a second?
Second.
Please cast your vote and confirm your vote. And the motion passes. We will return as quickly as possible. patience. Is there a motion to reconvene the open session to conduct the regular business meeting?
I so move.
Ms. Watley moved,
Second.
and Dr. Temple second. When you cast your vote, please confirm its accuracy. And the motion passes. Is there a motion for action on item 6A?
I move to uphold the constituent board's decision.
And we've been asked if we'll speak closely into our microphone since it's being recorded. If you, Mr. Calhoun, wouldn't mind repeating.
I move to uphold the constituent board's decision.
Second.
When you cast your vote, please confirm its accuracy. And the motion passes. Is there a motion for item 6B?
I move to uphold the principal's decision and,
There's no principal's decision.
oh, you go ahead. then.
Okay, I move to.
I defer to
overturn-
Mr. Calhoun.
I move to overturn the constituent board's decision and place the student at Daniel Jenkins Academy until successful completion of the program, as well as on straight board probation for the remainder of the school year.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Calhoun, if you will repeat that motion for our dictation.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry, I've been doing it for 5 years. I move to overturn the constituent district's decision and place student at the Daniel Jenkins Academy until successful completion of the program, as well as being placed on straight board probation until, or for the remainder of the school year.
And then Ms. Watley seconds.
When you cast your vote, please confirm its accuracy. And the motion passes. Is there a motion for item 6C?
Excuse me, I move to uphold the constituent board's decision.
I second.
Cast and confirm your vote. And the motion passes. Item 6D, out of county request. Is there a motion?
I move that we allow the student to stay at NCCAES until the end of the school year, and then they can apply moving forward.
Is there a second?
I second.
And Ms. Waters made the motion for one, sorry.
I'm so sorry. Can I make an amendment that, or add, with tuition being waived until the end of the school year?
Thank you.
And Ms. Bailey seconded.
Please confirm your vote after you cast.
Chairman McKinney. Passes unanimous.
And the motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Item 6E, is there a motion for the foreign exchange student request?
I move to approve the foreign exchange student request with admittance to Wando High School.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Watley, second by Ms. Waters. Please cast and confirm your vote.
And it's unanimous.
Thank you. It's a unanimous decision. Item 6F, personnel, Mr. Grabowski.
Yes, this is an item that was placed on the agenda by me as the chair of the Audit and Finance Committee out of concerns regarding the CFO position. I'd like to defer to Mr. Kennedy.
Thank you,
Dr.
Mr.
Kennedy, I apologize.
Sorry, thank you, Mr. Grabowski, Mr. So at any rate, this item relates to the CFO position. Ms. Shauna Williams, who's the current CFO for the school district, she's going to be leaving the district, going to take a CFO position in another organization outside of the state of South Carolina. This is being driven by family considerations. I've said publicly several times since Ms. Williams has been the CFO. In fact, when she was the deputy CFO, that she's the one of the most skilled CFOs in the country when it comes to governmental accounting. And so her departure is a big loss for us, and it's a big gain for the organization that she's been picked up by, and so we had to actually, because of her departure, we obviously had to figure out how we're going to backfill that position. And so we have appointed Ms. Jacqueline Carlin. Stand up for a minute, Jackie. Ms. Carlin would be the interim CFO while we go through the search process. Ms. Carlin first started to work for CCSD in 2005. In fact, I was the CFO when she was first hired here back then. She left, I think, in 2011 and went to Berkeley County as a financial analyst, and ultimately became the interim CFO up there. And then she came back here in 2017, probably, I think, 2 months before I returned. And so she came back as the executive director of finance for CCSD, which is the second lead position in the finance division. She has done a lot of different things in terms of management within school districts. So she is very qualified for this position. And so we in the Audit and Finance Committee and the board, and I think the community, it's good that she's available to and has accepted this responsibility. A lot of confidence in her, so I'm looking forward to working with her on this upcoming budget. What questions do you have?
Would you give them the date of effectiveness?
Oh, yes, the date of effectiveness. So Ms. Williams, I pressed her hard to not leave until we figured out how we were going to backfill for her. And so she was gracious enough to do that, but her departure date is March 7th.
And then we have a statement to make about the attorney recommendation for our minutes. Mr. Calhoun, would you, or Mr. Kelly?
Yeah, I moved to table the amendment. Table the passing of the motion. Wait, for the meeting minutes.
Table the minutes until.
And do you need the date? If you would please give her the date that you're referring to,
Yes,
since that was the part of the issue.
Yes, that was for February 13th, 2023, special called board meeting.
Thank you.
Annual voting.
Oh, manual voting. And we have been asked, since this is being recorded, when you cast your vote, please cast it into your microphone. We will, is there any other discussion? Okay.
Yeah.
Yay.
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 Yes.
Yes.
Yay.
So the motion passes. We are on to the public comments, 7A in person. Ms. Bailey, if you would like to call those people to the podium.
Good evening. Please come forward, and you have 2 minutes. Bonnie Cleveland.
Good evening, trustees. I'm Dr. Bonnie Cleveland, CCSD parent. Tonight, I would like to urge you not to vote, or to vote no on the prayer policy. And I'm going to comment a letter that was sent to the Post and Courier by Reverend Jeremy Rutledge of the Circular Congregational Church. And he says, I write to ask the Charleston County School Board to refrain from beginning its meetings with an invocation or prayer. My reason is a simple one. Not everyone is religious. Our public schools serve all families and students, some of whom are religious and some of whom are not. Among the religious, there's a great variety of faiths, including theistic, polytheistic, non-theistic, and animist traditions. Among the non-religious, there are rich expressions of humanism, atheism, and agnosticism. Beginning public school meetings with a prayer fails to acknowledge our true diversity and leaves many students and families out. Additionally, beginning with prayer is an implicit endorsement of one kind of belief. Such an exercise is out of place at a public meeting meant to serve everyone. For those who wish to pray, Charleston has a rich religious landscape. We may find the church, mosque, sangha, or synagogue of our choice. There's no need to go to a school board meeting for prayer. Instead, I suggest the board begin its meetings with a deep breath and maybe a smile toward the pluralism that makes this country so beautiful.
Thank you. Next up is Pascal Luz. Oh, okay. And I would like to call Angine Davis, Nelson Rivers, Charles Glover, and Kyle Taylor.
Good evening. Why would any public school board spend so many hours trying to make prayers before board meetings official? Is this a special agenda? Dear board members, you have been told over and over that this attempt is not only divisive and unrelated to your appointment, but also would be a violation of the Establishment Clause of our Constitution. Choosing not to pray before school board meetings allows a school district to avoid creating animosity and controversy, as well as expensive legal proceedings, which are absolutely not related to improving the quality of our children's education. Please stop trying to advance religion in our public schools. Our Constitution is clear-sighted. Our Board of Education is not in the business of advancing any religion over none, and therefore should remain neutral. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is AJ Davis, and I'm an employee of Charleston County School District housed at Burke High School. I want to first say thank you to the board, Superintendent Kennedy, his cabinet, and all those in administration for your leadership during these tumultuous times. I want to also give acknowledgement to all the teachers, support staff who have been shouldering the tremendous burden, not just this year, but through the last 3 years as we navigated an unprecedented pandemic. They were asked to do a job that many would have been able to do, and they did their best. While it is easy to criticize the work of teachers and administration, I am here to praise them and thank them because I saw what they went through firsthand. As we close out February, Black History Month, a month made because of the exclusion of the achievements of Black people from almost every facet of American life, I am saddened by the fact that a significant portion of this month has been spent defending the benefit of a curriculum that allows Black and brown students to see themselves in the books and stories they read. But I will say that while this has given me pause, I was able to see the dedication and the love of our dedicated teachers and staff as they came out to defend that curriculum. I would also like to say that I was proud to see the members of the Black Educators Affinity Group show their pride in this past weekend's Black Wall Street group. And finally, as a board, I hope that you understand that our students are diverse, our teaching staff is diverse, and our communities are diverse. It would only make sense that the methods and curriculum that we use to teach them are diverse as well. Thank you.
Is Nelson Rivers here? Okay, Charles Glover and Kyle Taylor.
Good evening. My name is Reverend Charles Glover, Sr. I'm the Constituent 23 School Board Chair. And I definitely got a serious question. Why is it that I can request to meet with the superintendent or an assistant or even request to have legal advice. And it's been several months that I can't get it. But when there are violations of policies within the school district, nothing being done about it, because my rights are being violated, because those are school policies that is written that the school is supposed to give legal advice. And when you request to see the superintendent or have a meeting with your board with the superintendent, that's being denied. And then when you got administrators in your school district, that's violating the school policies. So where do we go from here? Several months has went by. I've been asking, check out my minutes. I requested with the secretary, nothing had been done. So how are we gonna handle this? That's the question I need to know. As of right now, I'm at the end of my rope. Either we gonna follow school policies or we're not gonna abide by school policies. Because if the constituent board has to do it, then the CC board has to do it also. And it's just so sad that in the rural area schools are being neglected even now. Many issues, because I'm still trying to put it in my head, how come a white student could come to school with a gun and a clip and back in school the same calendar year? Where do you do this at? We got issues. If they're not going to be addressed, then I think we would have to go forward with legal actions, calling a community meeting. If nothing's going to be done about it, I will call for an investigation by SLED, and I will call the state superintendent to take action on these matters. Thank you.
Thank you. And that concludes in-person comments. We had 22 online comments. Prayer at meetings, there were 10. African American Studies, there was 1. EL Curriculum 5, Academic Calendar 4, Charleston Charter Math and Science 1, and Curriculum Unspecified 1, for a total of 22 online comments.
Thank you, Ms. Bailey. We are on to item 8A, the superintendent's report on goals and guardrails.
Thank you, ma'am. Yeah, PowerPoint. So this evening, for the superintendent's report, we're going to highlight some of the accomplishments of 5 schools in our schools up in North Charleston, District 4, and we're going to do that by allowing the principals of those 5 schools to highlight their schools. So I think the first one is Principal. Get to the next slide, please. Principal Smalls from Chicory Elementary School.
Good afternoon. I'm Cornetta Sims, the assistant principal, speaking on behalf of Principal Smalls. So who is Shakora? We are the Mighty Eagles. We serve 325 students in grades 1st through 5th. And when you take a look at the performance levels in CCSD and in Shakora, we've increased. We've increased in ELA, math, and science. And the number of students performing at does not meet has decreased. And the students in the approaching, meets, and exceeds has increased. And this is due to the intense and rigorous curriculums. For ELA, we have EL, which has caused our students to be able to think critically through collaborative conversations, deep dives within studies around topics that does not limit itself to the world that they see around them, but to the unlimited possibilities of the real world beyond Charleston, beyond North Charleston, beyond South Carolina, and beyond the United States. Our iReady winter data also shows that our students are heading in the right track. In winter of this year in ELA, we had 27% of our students meeting annual typical growth, 7% meeting annual stretch growth, and 47% on track for meeting their typical growth, and 30% on track for meeting their stretch growth. In math, we had 19% meeting annual typical growth, 4% annual stretch growth, 47% on track for typical growth, and 28% on track for their stretch growth. At Shakora, our PLCs are held weekly per grade level with our ELA and math coaches, and we work closely with teachers centered around data dives, PDs around the curriculum, and reinforcing the intentional use of targeted small group instruction. Our extended PLCs are held weekly on Wednesdays, and teachers receive targeted support from leading educators to increase teacher knowledge and internalize the curriculum, thus equipping our students with skills needed to thrive while prioritizing equity. At Shakora, we also have a mental health counselor. We have a mental health and wellness coach, social worker, and climate coach, which supports our students with their social and emotional needs. We have offered PBIS cohorts, which provides teachers with strategies to build positive relationships and cultures in the classroom. We have also reestablished partnerships with community members, Charleston Promise Neighborhood and Metanoia, which has built capacity for all stakeholders and helps cultivate our learning community. These partnerships also have afforded families the opportunity to attend various events throughout the Tri-County area. Overall, we are making gains. And with the rigorous EL and Bridges curriculum and teachers using the culturally responsive style of teaching, learning becomes more engaged. The similar experiences cause the students to connect to the text and make reading and learning more enjoyable. This also connects to our social and emotional curriculum, which pertains to the 4 C's: collaboration, creativity, critical thinking, and communication, which supports our vision for our students in CCSD. And because of this, we are on track to closing the achievement gap. At Shakora, our egos will soar high. We're soaring high to succeed in a complex world. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So next we will have Principal Hart from Mary Ford Early Learning Center.
Good afternoon. I'm here to talk about Mary Ford Early Learning and Family Center. We're a very unique center that has wraparound services. We offer 40+ family engagement opportunities through family financial literacy for families, holiday festival of lights that build traditions for families. We do Read to Me initiative, which is an initiative for our parents to learn, for them to be able to teach their kids how to read. We do a father to father initiative, which we have about 65 fathers right now enrolled in that program. We do STEM, math, and literacy family events just for our families. We also have multiple community engagement activities that happen during the month and week. Through our Wellness Wednesday walks, we have free farmers market that is for the community in the school, adult education program that's within our building, and we offer better health services, not only to our school members, but also to the community. According to our winter FastBridge assessment, we are closing the achievement gap for our little scholars. In reading, 81% of our kinder students are on grade level or advanced. And in math, we have 80% of our kinder students on grade level or advanced. They will be ready for first grade.
Thank you, Ms. Hart. So next is North Charleston Elementary School Principal Brubaker.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for having me back this evening to share some of our accomplishments. And I have just a short video as I begin talking. We are very excited. I know I got to share with many of you before, but now that it is official, we are above the lowest 10% at this point. Thank you. Our remaining designation is the ATSI for our special education population, which we do have a large number of students. And so in response to that, one of the things that we're working on is to make sure that our co-teaching model within our classrooms is very strong. And so I have a video of a couple of my teachers sharing, and you'll be able to see in the classroom to hear and see firsthand.
It's so beneficial, the reteach model, the tier 1, because we give that tier 1 instruction in module, and then in all block we're able to get to that tier 2, tier 3 sometimes, and it gives us that time to not catch up but meet students where they're at.
And I think like all around other schools are seeing like, oh, co-teaching can be supported, is helpful. We can use it like the different ways we teach in our classrooms. And it was like a 3-teacher model group. Ms. Shervington is pulling some students, not just her students, she's helping support that section. Ms. Brooks has a small group going. I'm checking in with a group of students. It's like 3 teachers just working with the same students one-on-one, giving them that time they need to get all the work they need completed, so they understand what's going on as well, not just like teach, 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 go, 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 like move on. Like they're learning as we're going, and 3 teachers in here, we're all educators, we're all helping the students in the way they need to be helped.
So I wanted to make sure that you saw what that looks like within the classroom, because we are thrilled with the results. We're looking forward to not only continuing to be off that lowest levels, but then also getting off of that ATSI this year as well as a result of some of that work. So we're also looking at some of our, and I know it's hard to see on the slide, I only got 1 slide, so I tried to fit it all in, but on our iReady for ELA middle of the year, you can see on the right hand or the left-hand side, the number of students who have already met their average yearly growth, their typical yearly growth. So that's 41% in 3rd grade, 77 in 4th grade, and 43 in 5th grade. That's meeting their typical annual growth. And then on the right-hand side are the number of percentage of students who have met their stretch growth for the entire year. 11% in 3rd grade, 32% in 4th grade, and 15% in 5th grade. So we are thrilled at the results of that rigorous instruction that we're providing. And then lastly, just to end it off in our SEL component, we are aligned with Morningside and our house system. So we're very excited to see how that has brought together our entire staff and students. And you can see the results in just that fall school climate survey, the massive increase, up 17 points, up 22 points in that school climate in that component. So we are thrilled with the growth that we're seeing school-wide and look forward to those results coming out next year, even being better than this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Principal Brubaker. And next, we will highlight Goodwin Elementary School with our Principal Jones.
Good evening. W.B. Goodwin's purpose is to provide a culture of embracing and empowering the whole child to maximize their academic, social, and emotional growth to become lifelong leaders and learners. We will accomplish this through our collective commitment of engaging all of our stakeholders in the learning process. We will own, monitor, and adjust our strategies to ensure we are meeting the needs of our stakeholders. We can and we will excel. W.B. Goodwin scholars continue to close the achievement gap, stemming from our exposure to our rigorous curriculum. From 2019 to 2022, we have advanced 1 level on the state report card from unsatisfactory to below average. Our iReady data in math and reading continue to reflect our scholars' advancement at moving from 1 or 2 grade levels below to on grade level or above grade level. Many of our scholars have already met their typical growth goal and are progressing towards their stretch goal. One of our scholars, yes, one of our scholars, has received a perfect score on SC Ready Math for 2. We are continuing to provide professional development in ELA and math with the help of some amazing coaches. They wanted me to make sure you all knew that. Our coaches provide targeted support through their walkthrough observations. Not only is this support targeted, but it's measurable feedback so we can correct what needs to be correct for our scholars. Our PLC leaders assist teachers with unit internalization, planning, and effectively using data to guide that instruction. Our exceptional guidance team continues to implement and support scholars' social, emotional well-being. Our attendance rate continues to improve through collaboration with parents and other stakeholders. We are excited about our efforts of reinforcing and incentivizing positive behaviors that aim to make our scholars strive both in school and throughout life. Our community partnership with Art Park is designed to assist with closing our opportunity gap with our Hispanic scholars and families. Now, any artist will tell you that a masterpiece takes time to create. Our Gators show that we are still, that Gator right there, is showing that we are still in the midst of creating our masterpiece. If you click on that Gator, you will get just a taste of our masterpiece. But I will tell you, in order to get the full effect, the full magnitude of who we are, we invite you to come in and stop by. Well, you can hear it.
Can they click it on the?
Goodwin Elementary is actually, it was my elementary school, so.
Welcome to W.B. Goodwin Elementary School, home of the Gators. We see the leaders in each and every one of our scholars simply because the world needs them. Our doors inside every classroom, you will see our scholars engaged in meaningful learning opportunities, whether it's following our EL protocols of turning and talk, having a science discussion, you will see it all. In mathematics, our scholars are making sense of the mathematics to become mathematical geniuses, because that's what we do here at Goodwin. Our scholars is truly the heart of our work, and our scholars make our day each and every day.
Thank you, Principal Jones. And then the last school that we will highlight this evening is Morningside Middle School with Principal White.
Good evening. Morningside Middle School is making strides towards transformation, and this is evident on many levels, including our recent designation as an average school based on the latest data from the South Carolina State Report Card. Our growth rating of excellent is a testament to the many hard hours as our faculty dedicated themselves towards closing the achievement gap. Using the many components of the best practices, our faculty has never been more prepared to meet the needs of our scholars, ensuring that we strengthen the core curriculum using the data to drive instruction. To facilitate these needs, we, with the support of the Acceleration Schools, implemented PLCs that allow for deeper dives into the curriculum, which includes data-driven instruction, meetings which encases a strong and healthy set of ongoing practices that focus on, number one, assessing student learning, number two, analyzing assessment data, and number three, adjusting instruction in response to the assessment data and intentional cycles. The use of EL for reading and IM for math supports the intention of closing that achievement gap. As indicated in this presentation, our strategy in facilitating growth is harbored in accountability. Our observations from 2021 to the present is over 1,000. These observations focus on measures of sustainable growth as we provide support for meaningful instruction in all core content and related art classes. In addition, the engagement within the classroom has garnered less disruptive behavior and more attention to learning, which accounts for the drop in discipline referrals from the 2018-2019 school year until now, 70%. With more attention to bell-to-bell instruction through intentional planning of effective lessons, we have experienced more scholars moving into the meet exceeds expectations from 2021 to 2022 based on the SC Ready scores. MAP growth from 2021 to 2022 is up 6% in math and ELA. We can attribute this growth to, once again, intentional planning as we internalize the curriculum of IM, which is known as illustrative math, and EL, expectationary learning. With all these components and the Ron Clark Academy House system to bolster our climate and culture in conjunction with North Charleston Elementary School, Morningside Middle School has moved off the comprehensive support and improvement schools list. This is big. However, we still have much more to do. Never before has the school been this focused as the synergy of all stakeholders have come together to demonstrate that Morningside, as well as our partner schools in the acceleration community, are drilling to the core. Thank you.
So thank you all very much, principals, for the 5 schools that were highlighted. We have a question time period for the board.
Ms. McKinney, I don't have a question. I just want to say, I'm sorry, I get so emotional every time we actually talk about student progress. And I just want to thank y'all so much from the bottom of my heart for the work that you're doing.
Ashe, Ashe.
Thank you. We are on to item 8B. There is a recommended action for the CCSD Board of Trustees to engage with the Council of the Great City Schools for the train and student outcomes focused monitoring. Is there a motion?
I move.
Dr. Temple moves. Is there a second?
A second.
And Ms. Waters seconds. Is there discussion?
I just have one comment. That the greatest benefit, having gone through this before, is that it is actually an endeavor to learn how to govern, which is a skill. It is not something that you enter into lightly. And because the district is using it, us going into this in conjunction with them as we fine tune and continue to lean into our goals and guardrails to continue to support the amazing outcomes that we're hearing is so important. Having our meetings be laser focused on student outcomes and making sure that every action we take is tied to student learning and will actually make a difference is so incredibly valuable. And the last thing I would say is walking in schools across the state, as well as in our own in CCSD, it is apparent that teaching and learning is happening and that principals are doing everything they can to support schools. But what they've been doing has been despite the actions of boards and bodies like ours most of the time. And we can actually enter into this in partnership with them rather than creating a lot of static and noise and often being a distraction.
And I'd like to say that this motion is forward because it is very important that we focus on student achievement and the outcomes. We have set goals and guardrails and we need to monitor them. If they're not working, we need to make the adjustments and support our schools in doing what we know our teachers are working very hard at.
Any other discussion? Then we will call for the question. If you will cast your vote and then confirm your vote. So there are 4 yay, 5 nay. The motion does not go forward. We will go on to item 9A, the African American Studies course, and Mr. Kennedy will introduce our speaker.
Thank you very much, Ms. McKinney. So I ask Mr. Henry Darby to come forward, please. He's the principal at North Charleston High School, and he's going to give the board and the community an overview of the elective African American Studies course. And we've asked him to do it because of he's a student of history generally, and specifically around African-American history. And through my discussions with him in the past, he's also lived through some of that history. So we'll ask him to make that presentation.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
How are you all doing? It has been a very, very long day. When I woke up this morning, I didn't have to shave. So that tells you how long a day it has been. On a serious note, Madam Chairperson, and to all of the other aficionados of the school board, to Mr. Superintendent, and to all of the cognoscenti of the educational field and beyond. I come this afternoon to give a succinct summation of the African American history course as taught at North Charleston High School. And I'm going to ask you, would you please go to the next slide, please, ma'am? My purpose is simply to say, the purpose of the African American history syllabus is to examine the history and culture of Africa and the African American experience with a concentration on the latter. And if you look before you, you can see the various prerequisites, which all are components of social studies. Please pay particular attention to the first 3, 4, 5 words of the paragraph. It is an elective course. It's not an imperative. It's not a requirement. It is an elective. Next slide, please, ma'am. Here you have the unit, instructional topics, and suggested time. Say, for instance, I'm just going to glean of this. It's not all conclusive. Take African kingdoms and the African Atlantic slave trade. And if you were to look at topic 1, Africa, there we talk about the ancient African kingdoms of Ghana, Mali, and Songhai. If you were to look at slavery in the United States, if you look at my eyes here, resistance to slavery, slave resisted in various manners, from mutilation of animals to burning down barns to self-mutilation to outright insurrection. Civil War and Reconstruction, if one were to look at topic 2, Civil War, you would realize that 180 African Americans served in the Civil War, with over 40,000 of them losing their lives. Successes and struggles in a post-slavery society, topic number 4, demographic trends. Between 1910 and 1970, so many African Americans moved to the North, the West, and the Midwest that white Southerners actually followed them to say, please come back, that you can work in our fields, our farms, our kitchens, our restaurants, and so forth. If you look at fighting for civil rights, topic 2, that's quite self-evident, and we will return there briefly. And of course, you can look at contemporary issues in Africa in terms of modern cities. Africa is not a jungle in terms of a continent. Next slide, please. If you look at the verbs here, you're looking at Bloom's taxonomy. We're talking about to analyze, to examine, the synthesize, to make judgment, to make critical analysis. And if you were to look at fighting for civil rights, analyze and evaluate the civil rights movement. There are 2 components of which I'd like to talk about succinctly. One is what we call freedom rides, and the other is the right to vote in terms of the civil rights movement. Next slide, please, ma'am. To the left is Mr. William Harbour. To the right, far right, is Mr. David Fankhauser. But there's something particular about the young lady in the middle. Her name is Joan Mulholland. And she became a symbol to the civil rights movement. Her name is not recorded basically in American history, but she is recorded in African American history. Next slide, please. Next. And here's a clip. It's only 1 minute and 43 seconds. And please see what this young lady did. She attended Duke University and she was ostracized so because of her liberal views that she left to really help out the cause. 1 minute, 43 seconds.
She is, in my mind, one of those sheroes that demands respect and acknowledgement. Clearly, she was a lady ahead of her time.
She walked through that mob in the War Star. And they realized, of course, immediately where she stood.
There she is.
Erlina and Annie at the counter, the first white to join the demonstration. And at this,
integrating a bus line.
Just incensed. They become like hornets. They start screaming at her.
She wasn't the outside agitator. She was a white Southerner. She was a white Southern woman. And so for that purpose, she was even more dangerous to the white supremacist power structure. Here's this white Southern woman who's supposed to be protected by the system saying, I don't need this protection and I don't believe in the system. And so that made her incredibly dangerous.
And that cell was 50 feet from the death chamber. That's where we were. As far as the state of Mississippi was concerned, we had committed capital crimes.
We had no doubt we were going to die. Mississippi was known as the deepest of the deep South, the heart of darkness. Somebody was going to die that summer, and it looked like it was us.
This young lady and so many Northern young whites, along with African Americans, put their lives on the line to integrate bus terminals. Next slide, please.
With our school librarian. She directed us to a book called She Stood for Freedom, an untold story of the civil rights hero Joan.
Next slide. I will not show David Frank Hauser because time is of the essence. But here's a young John Lewis, and this is a Mr. Jim Sorg, and his story must be told. And if you would please go to the next slide and go to the 3:20 mark for the sake of time. If not, if you can't, we'll just go to the next slide, ma'am. But Mr. Swerg will but there it is there, at 3:20, please.
Jim Swerg really took an awful whipping. He took a beating.
They were knocking him over the rail of one of the bus stops there where they would come in. And they would pick him up, stand him up, and knock him over the rail again, pick him up, knock him down. And he was picking the loose teeth out of his mouth where they had broken his teeth.
We're dedicated to this. We'll take
All this was done to integrate bus lines in the South.
We're willing to accept death. But we're going to keep coming until we can ride from anywhere in the South to any place else in the South without anybody making any comments, just as American citizens.
You cannot have people that use violence think that if they become violent enough, you're going to fold. Well, there are things worth dying for. We were going to continue the ride, wherever it took us. Because I got beat up, that's a bump in the road. If I'd been physically fit, I would have gone with them.
Next slide, please, ma'am. Now, folk who lost their lives for African Americans that they would have the right to vote. This is Mr. Paul Guihard, and I'm going to go through this quickly. He was from France. He wrote on behalf of African Americans that they should have the right to vote, and he was shot in the back and killed. Next slide, please. This is Mr. William Moore, who was on a nearly 400-mile march alone. And within 70 miles within the march, he was asked to please stop because he was going to be killed. And he wanted to deliver this letter to the governor of Mississippi. And within 70 miles, he was slain. Next slide, please. This is Reverend Bruce Clunder, who was protesting the construction of a segregated school up north. And Madam Chairman, if I had to die, I would not want to die in the manner that Reverend Bruce Clunder died. He was run over by a bulldozer. Next slide, please. This is Mr. Cheney, along with Goodwin and Smyrna, the two Jews. African-American history teaches us that the Jews and Blacks formed a relationship as early as the 1920s because both groups faced discrimination. And though all three lost their lives, brutally killed by state government, by the sheriff and other Klansmen. Next slide, please. This is Reverend James Reed, Selma, Alabama. If anyone were beat to death, it was Reverend Reed. Next slide, please. Mr. Daniels, a seminary student, there was a store which allowed for non-whites to shop. And he and Ruby Sales, a Black girl, but there was a deputy there who says, not today. And as he raised a shotgun to shoot Ruby, this student, Mr. Daniels, pushes her away and he took the full blast of the shotgun. Next slide, please. Take a look at this lady. Look at her firmness. Look at her piercing eyes. Look at the scintillating beauty on her face. All that pales in comparison to her inner desire and strength to help African American. She was from Michigan, and she told her husband and 5 children that Dr. King needed some help in Selma, Alabama. But as a white Northerner, she did not know the rules of the South. You can't be a white female and have a Black male in a car with Northern license plates. That's a recipe for death. Would you please, if you would, ma'am? Bado Lioso. No, you have to go back, please. Yes, the clip there, yes. And this is very short. If you can't, oh.
Letters were beaten in Birmingham and the bus was burned. And the writers attacked Anniston. It felt like an attack on us. That the freedom run continue, especially since there had been a great
I
deal.
get a little emotional when I read about see this lady.
Everyone understood that
a Teamster's wife
to
and
take up
mother
the
of
freedom
5.
ride
She
meant
left her home in
that there was a
Detroit
good
to volunteer in a
possibility
civil rights march in
of people being
Alabama.
seriously injured or even.
There was another one playing in the, and I really want you to listen to this, please.
The attitude became, well, kill us if that's what you're going to do. But we were going.
If not, I can move on now.
Guys, stop getting ripped off by your car insurance company and check this out. Okay.
That's not it. As she was traveling.
Premium. So policy premium, $1. A month. Now, I covered up my private information, so
We can move on, okay? I sincerely apologize for that. But the fact of the matter, she was the only white female to lose her life for the cause. I'm here this afternoon not to minimize the sufferings and the ancient brutality that Blacks experienced. I'm here to prove a point that white parents and white students need not feel any type of guilt or anything of that nature in discussing African-American history, because they will see that whites were also involved within the civil rights movement. That needs to be known, because too often we think African-American history is just about Blacks. Far from it. Whites, liberal and radical whites, have always stood head to head, shoulder to shoulder, and toe to toe with the African American. And we need to know that. So it's very important. And you cannot hurt African American history without hurting American history, because African American is American history. Now, that's not a complete Aristotelian syllogism, but that's the truth nonetheless. And the more that we learn about African American history, the more we will learn about white history as well. Look at this. Do you not know that the NAACP was founded by Jews and whites? We think the NAACP was a Black. No. Du Bois came in afterwards, along with Ida B. Wells. Did you not know that 95% of the white men who were lynched in this country between 1882 and 1968 were lynched in defense of African Americans? That's not taught in American history. Have you ever heard of Rosenwald schools? The pre-run was that of Sears and Roebuck. You remember Sears? Sears and Roebuck? Well, Sears was the white guy and Roebuck was the Black guy who was part owner of Sears. They don't tell you that. Do you not know, and I'm through, Madam Chairman, rock and roll is not a white phenomenon. That's an African-American phenomenon. When I was a little boy, it was called the N-word music. It was called the devil music. So without rock and roll, there would be no Elvis Presley. There would be no Beatles. There would be no Eagles. There would no be, pardon the grammar there. That's African-American history. And do you know, and I would ask, if anyone, tell me who's Barbara Henry, please. Every educator should know Barbara Henry, but I would not get into that this afternoon. But nonetheless, our white parents realized that there were various whites who were involved. Black students realized that whites really helped them as well. But in the final analysis, that African-American shows, one of the analysis that is, that we love this country, not because it has buildings which could kiss the skies, but has bridges that can span the seas, or it has medical technology beyond. America is a great country according to African-American history, because America is self-corrective. When she makes some mistakes, it may take her a long time, but in the final analysis, she is going to get it right. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Mr. Darby. We are on to item 9B, Charleston Charter School for Math and Science. There is a recommended action to approve the charter renewal application for Charleston Charter School for Math and Science, and to direct the legal services to negotiate a 10-year contract and facility use agreement for Charleston County School District facility that the Charleston Charter School for Math and Science occupies. Do I hear a motion? We have to do this before we have discussion. Is there a motion for this recommended action to go forward?
Are we doing the motion before the
Are
presentation?
we at discussion or is something?
I was instructed that we do the motion and
I believe
then,
Ms. Dunmeyer is trying to make the motion. I said, oh, I'm sorry. You were tapping on yourself. I thought, okay. I thought you were saying I agree.
yeah, this is not calling for the vote. This is calling to open up the floor for discussion and for presentation. Ms. Waters moves. Is there a
I'll second.
second? And Mr. Grabowski seconds. The recommended action for 9B. Mr. Olson.
Chair McKinney and board members, my name is Bob Olson. I'm a director in the Office of School Choice, and I work with charter schools that our district sponsors, and I've done so since 2006. Tonight, you will consider the charter renewal of Charleston Charter School for Math and Science, which we approved 15 years ago, and this will be the second charter renewal. The law is very clear on what is required to renew a charter school. And it's spelled out in South Carolina State Law, Section 5940-110. It's very clear. The charter must be approved or renewed for 10 years. The application must be submitted to the sponsor 120 calendar days before the end of the school year. A report on the progress of the charter school in achieving the goals and objectives, pupil achievement standards, and other terms should be in that application. Financial statement that discloses the cost of administration, instruction, and other spending categories should be in the application, and any material changes should be in the application. Each sponsor develops its method of reauthorization or responsorship, and they all do it differently. And I might add, there's only 8 districts in South Carolina that sponsor charter schools. And of the 8 districts that sponsor charter schools, we sponsor 9 schools, or E-Counter sponsors 3 schools, and then there's 7 other districts that sponsor 1 school. So we are by far the largest sponsor of charter schools of local school districts. Most charter schools are sponsored by large sponsoring or authorizers such as the South Carolina Public Charter School Association or other large authorizers. But we are the largest local school district authorizer. Our CCSD team met with the leadership of Charleston Math and Science on April 6th to discuss our process, which is very extensive, of renewing a charter. We reviewed the application, timelines, and deadlines, and several of the documents that we used. We look at what the state produces for a new charter school to apply to a district or organization. We take that application and we adapt it. In your package, you can see it's a rather long application. We also take the scoring rubric that's used to score a new application, and we adapt that to score the application that's submitted to our district, and you also have that in your packet. We gave assistance to the school as needed between that initial meeting in April and when they submitted the application to us in December. The final application, including the appendices, which you have, was submitted to us on January 3rd. We sent the application to our department heads for review, and each department head scored their section of the application using the adapted rubric that the State Department produced. The application, appendices, scoring rubrics, and other information have been given to you. This time, I'd like to introduce Mary Carmichael. She's the CEO and executive principal of Charleston Math and Science, who will introduce you to her school and answer any questions you have about the school. Mary?
Thank you, Mr. Olson, and good evening. Thank you very much for having us and allowing us to present this evening. And with me, I have our lead principal, Melissa Frazier, and our director of operations, Kelly Federico. They will help answer any questions you may have as well. Our lawyer is Ann Peterson, and then I've got board members here as well, David Wolf and Russ Campbell. Thank you. And so, you can go to the next slide, thanks. So this is our mission, is to educate scholars for success in college and careers by providing an innovative learning environment that is academically excellent, developmentally responsive, and socially equitable. We've been advancing our mission for 15 years by focusing on the needs of our scholars, and we look forward to continuing to do so with CCSD. Next slide. The idea for CCSMS was sparked at a youth baseball game downtown in 2006. Interest in creating a charter school group to a diverse group of supporters. We were approved in 2007 to open for the 2008-2009 school year. I would be remiss if I did not note the recent passing of two of our supporters in this picture. Mr. Leroy Connors was a Burke alum and involved in coaching youth in the community throughout his life. He served on our founding charter committee, and he remained involved in the school, serving on various committees and the board over the years, and his grandson currently attends the school. Mr. Arthur Ravenel was a former congressman and served on the CCSD board at the time of the approval as well. So we had very diverse support for the school at the time. All kinds of different people with all kinds of different backgrounds coming together and wanting something more for our kids. We serve a diverse group of middle school and high school scholars from across Charleston County School District. As you can see from some of the data, it's pretty small, but that was all in the presentation as well, the application. 57% of our scholars identify as pupils in poverty, 51% are African-American students. We have a growing Hispanic population as well, and we're very happy to work with CCSD to make sure that all of our scholars are getting their needs met. We are proud of the accomplishments as a school community, and we take time to celebrate those things. We know that there's room for growth as a school, as you've seen from the schools that also presented this evening. We all have some students that come to us with different needs, and we all work to meet with them. We appreciate CCSD's staff support in helping us through some of those difficult times with some of our kids as well, and we really do appreciate those partnerships. We've noted in the narrative and worked with CCSD staff and with our own staff to develop goals that address the needs of our scholars and are aligned with CCSD's goals. This picture also captures so much for us as a school. It is one of those first times, and Ms. Waters, you got upset earlier. I'm going to too. I thought I was going to get through this one. It's one of those first times that our kids got to be kids after COVID. Breathe. It really captures the reality of their data too. Some of them are ready to go, and some of them are a little bit afraid to take that next step, but our staff meets them where they are, encourages them to grow. Okay, next one. And that, going back to that one real quick, you don't have to go back, but that is some of our graduation data there as well. And for African Americans, our graduation rate is over 20 points higher than the district in the state. And for economically disadvantaged as well, we're 25 points higher than the state and the district. So we work really hard. We get to know our kids over those 7 years they are with us. Okay, so our graduates are going places that we could not be prouder of the challenges that they take on, whether it's one of the top colleges in the country or whether it's at Trident Tech doing the best that they can and really adding to our community. I was doing so good, I was not going to cry. All right, over 15 years, there's one belief that has sustained our work, and that's the belief that everyone can learn and grow. Our actions, our decisions come from the collective belief that every one of us can learn and grow. That belief is evident in our work in middle school, where scholars come to us from all kinds of educational experiences. You can go to the next one. And then this is an example of a day in 6th grade with us, similar to what was in the chart application. Our middle school is primarily on the first floor of our building. Our high school is primarily on the 2nd floor. They have different bell schedules. They come in different doors. But we have lots of family across those 7th grade levels. So lots of times they want to make sure that they're all doing well and truly support each other. Middle school goes to 6 periods a day, and that class is throughout the year. Electives changes throughout the year though. Go to the next one. Middle school prepares our scholars for success in a rigorous high school curriculum. While scholars may not come to us on grade level, we continue to work with them to focus on their growth and to develop goals beyond high school graduation. Our career pathways are STEM focused, as you can see, with biomedical, engineering, computer science, and information technology, entrepreneurism with focuses in business, marketing, or communications. We have a teacher cadet program where we're hoping to inspire that next generation of math and science teachers. And then we also have environmental sciences and natural resource management that was truly grown out of student interest and has been amazing partnerships with DNR and local government agencies and nonprofits. And this is a sample of the high school Scholars Day. So we do block scheduling 4 in the fall semester and 4 in the spring semester. It allows for us to really give our kids a lot of different opportunities. And that schedule also allows for them, if they maybe are struggling in something, to give them that extra help that they need and making sure that they get the credits that they need to graduate on time as well. Something unique at CCSMS is Semester. It's an experiential learning seminar where scholars explore a topic in depth throughout the year. Faculty incorporate field experiences with local experts to engage scholars in critical thinking and incorporate real-world issues impacting our local community. Middle school has grade level themes throughout the year that they work on. Example, in 8th grade, they work with DNR, they go out, they help build oyster beds. They also bring back seeds to plant at school to grow, to then go back and do riparian buffers and building marshland and stuff. So they do that throughout the year. And then in high school, they apply to different topics based on their interests. As a school faculty and staff, we learned a new word tonight. I think it was staffaldy, but we don't use that one yet. Maybe somebody coined it tonight. We continue to grow in ways that support our scholars. In the midst of COVID, implementing new requirements could have been daunting, but it's a natural transition for our team to implement things like the multi-tiered system of support, or as you've heard MTSS use, which was aligning with new state requirements, because many of the strategies were things that our teachers were already naturally doing in their classrooms or that staff was already working on implementing. Progress monitoring and discussing how to implement and adjust was already built in our planning and our meeting times. One of our strengths is meeting the individual needs of our scholars and supporting them to realize their full potential. 30% of our scholars are typically identified as gifted and talented by the state, and we provide advanced classes and academic opportunities for them. We also provide special education supports and instruction as identified by a scholar's individual education program. We currently serve 66 scholars with IEPs, including state designations of LD, vocational, emotional, autistic, and speech. We have 6 full-time staff members who provide inclusive co-teaching and direct services as their IEP requires. We also provide accommodations and supports for multiple language learners and scholars with 504 plans. And we do have scholars that are sometimes identified as homeless as part of the McKinney-Vento Act, and we work to ensure that they have what they need to be successful with us as well. Teachers are a critical part of meeting our scholars' needs and our community's needs. We look forward to working with CCSD and continue to work in the community to make sure Charleston is a great place to be an educator and also one that they can afford to live in. We work to ensure our school is run professionally and in compliance with all requirements. We are proud to be a school that others reference when looking for solutions on how to handle day-to-day operations, and we love to collaborate with other schools. Our board takes their governance real seriously and works to support the mission of the school with all of their decision-making. CCSMS administrative leadership and the board continuously, change the slide. We work continuously to monitor factors impacting revenue and adjust and budget accordingly to ensure the organization remains sustainable and fiscally solvent. Charter schools are public schools and receive local, state, and federal funding. It should be noted that about 57% of our scholars do trigger Title I dollars for the district, but we do not currently receive those funds, and those go to other schools that we hope well, then those kids will maybe come to us reading and doing math on grade level someday. So that would be great. But that's one of those things that there are some things that we don't get funding for, and that's one of them. Charter schools have an independent audit each year, similar to a district audit. And these are submitted to the state and the district, and that was included in your packet. one. Concerning facilities and transportation, CCSMS is housed in a publicly owned school building that's part of Charleston County School District. We work to ensure we are excellent stewards of this public resource, and we're grateful for the facility. We pay for all general maintenance of the facility and day-to-day operations and related utilities and contracted services. Capital improvements are part of the long-term district plans and budgeted expenditures. We have budgeted $1.4 million from our ESSER allotted funds for HVAC improvements. So there's sometimes where we work together with the district to make things happen. We lease our bus fleet, and our bus drivers are our employees trained by the state. That we're not required to do this by law, but this is one of those things that we know we need to do to make sure that we have a diverse student population. So in ending, thank you again for this opportunity to present. We're so grateful for this opportunity to serve the families of Charleston County School District, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Carmichael and Mr. Olson. With the volumes of documents that you sent us, which were quite thorough, and your wonderful presentation, thank you. Are there any questions left?
I just want to verify your location. Is it over on Wapu Road?
No, I'm sorry. We're at 1002 King Street. Look, when we opened it, it was a vacant car wash, but it is now Rodney Scott's Barbecue. That's the loop. So across from Rodney Scott's Barbecue is usually the easiest way to tell somebody where we are.
I have a question. In the application rubric results, I noticed that special education was one of the areas, and I know for charter schools it tends to be different because you have to contract to get services, but didn't see exactly how you partner with CCSD and what services you get. I'm just curious to know how you're supporting students with IEPs.
So we didn't get the rubric back until like it was already posted. So I thought we were going to get it before and be able to rectify anything. We answered the questions as they were presented. So I'm sorry that we didn't answer the way that it was then graded there. That was really the only section where there were major questions. Sure. So we have actually our own staff. We have 6 full-time staff people plus some paras and others, and then we have contracted services that come in. So if there's a case that's that we need some help from CCC, just think through how to serve that student. But we've got a few students each year in high school that are on a non-diploma track. We've also got the full range of kids that we're serving. So 66 of our kids currently have IEPs, and we're serving all of those kids and have no findings and everything. So yeah,
I can add a little bit to that. It varies from charter school to charter school and from year to year. So when you're looking at a 10-year contract, it might vary from year to year, and it also varies on what particular assistance they need and also what assistance we can give them. Because some years we can't give them the assistance that they need because we don't have the staff ourselves. So it's a year-to-year thing. And when they request assistance, it's simply us writing up an MOU that it's a contract between the district and the school as to what we can offer and what they will pay or what they agree to. And then we take it year by year. So it's that was kind of a funny thing in the matrix. Because again, we're looking at a 10-year contract where the matrix was kind of, that was kind of a funny question in there. The one thing, all charter schools are bound by federal law that they meet all the needs of special needs students because they're covered under federal law. So the one thing we know is that all of our charter schools have to meet the needs of all special needs students. So that's not an issue at this school or any of our other charter schools.
Thank you.
Ms. Fraser's worked on amendments to the written document to make sure we answer the staff person's specifics on those things. So we're meeting all of those needs, and there are no findings on special. That's from the job that I had prior to coming back. I helped found the school and then came back and been in the school for about 5 years. The job that I had in between that time was being executive director of the Charter School Association for the state. And one of the biggest struggles that charter schools have is meeting special education.
Right.
We're a model in that area and something that definitely is one of our strengths. So we were surprised that was the section that had the most questions, but understandably.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to comment on special ed because this obviously is one of the few times you ever get to critique the charter school concept. And, you know, I'm very happy to even hear you talk about special ed because the perception out there is that, you know, the district is the only source of, you know, resources for, you know, disability or children that are challenged. So I was kind of surprised to see that is one of your area of weaknesses, but I'm also very happy to hear that you actually are attempting or open. I think that needs to get out more, seeing as this is like the only time we ever get to, you know,
We're beyond attempting. Our percentage of students that we're serving with special education is actually like 12% of the districts at 10 or 11%.
12% of your student population. I mean, I've always been impressed. My son went there, so you know. But nevertheless, the graduation rate is definitely something that I wish all charter schools could come out and say and be a little more open with the information on that. And definitely having the district being involved in sponsoring, I think we would clear up a lot of the problems that we had with the perception of charter schools and being a little more transparent of actually what's being taught. And this, I mean, we could look at the scores, and I've never been really impressed, you know, but nevertheless, I appreciate your presentation. I don't know, Carol, I mean, come on.
Well,
No words.
yeah, I knew Carol was on the James Island Charter
Really?
School
Come
Board at
on.
one point. Carol and I go back.
Well, I have to say, I remember when the Charleston Charter Math and Science had their first application. I looked at it and it was very impressive application at that particular time. I was looking at the student achievement issues, and I think, you know, the graduation rates are really higher than the district and the state. But I was concerned, and when I looked at the data around the end of course exams and that kind of thing. So I just want to make a suggestion.
Sure.
And that is that it's one thing to state that we want to improve things, but I was thinking we're learning so much more now about SMART goals. And so I was going to suggest that you look at creating SMART goals along with some of the guardrails and benchmarks and being more concrete with your strategies, because usually when you can be concrete, you can, you know, move forward. And I was glad to see with the classroom environment that the average teacher salaries are going up and that you were increasing the expertise of your teachers in your school.
Yeah, we did work with Ms. Roberts on aligning the SMART goals that are in our charter renewal with what the district was doing. We're aware that the end of course exam data, especially coming out of COVID, it was certainly challenging. Before COVID, the numbers were certainly a little bit better. The graduating class that just graduated, while it was an excellent graduation rate, they came into us in sixth grade in one of the lowest academically ready cohorts that we'd ever had at a school. We knew that. So when several of us started 5 years ago, when I came back, that was something that we continued to look at and figure out ways. And so as one of the other schools had talked about before, we added co-teaching a few years ago. We had somebody apply for a job and she wasn't quite right for that job, but it had us thinking, like, how can this role look different here? We're a charter school, we can think through things differently. And so creating supports that were also some almost social services supports and academic support all at the same time.
Right.
So some things like that.
And one other thing, I was looking at the student safety and the that you look at restorative practices. You seem like an ideal school to really work with the students in that practice.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion?
I'd like to make a motion.
I do have one more question.
Well, we have a motion on
motion's
the
already on
floor
It is, yeah.
for the recommended action for it to go forward to the next step. So would you like to call for that vote?
Sure.
Any other question?
His question, but I guess just as a clarification on the motion, I thought the motion was to bring the presentation, but we made the motion to
approve The recommended action is a motion to approve the charter renewal application for Charleston Charter School. So, and then to take the next step to direct the legal services to negotiate the 10-year contract and the facility use.
Right, I'm aware of that, but just a clarification, because when I made the motion before and I was like, are we going to hear the presentation first? I thought you were saying we were making the motion to get the presentation.
Oh,
And
no, I'm
it's-
sorry. I meant we were making the motion so we could have the presentation and discussion.
Gotcha. Just a technical piece. Typically, we hear the presentation and then make the motion because the presentation is not really the discussion. The discussion is for the board. And the only reason that matters, it doesn't matter as much now because I support the motion. Obviously, I tried to make it twice, but just out of concern that we don't get all of the inputs before we move forward and start to vote from the staff, because the discussion piece is really for the board, not the staff or the presenter.
I understand, but I would not have a vote without the discussion and presentation. So, is there more discussion?
Yeah, the question, sorry, the question is relating to financial. I'm quite pleased, frankly, with the student outcome portion of this. So bravo, you guys are clearly doing wonderful work. My concern is, I guess, twofold. One is there's a step in the wrong direction when it comes to the financial outlook from 21 to 22. And it looks like it's mostly attached to long-term liabilities. Looks like
Yeah, are
probably-
you looking at the retirement pieces?
Yeah, it looks like-
that's,
pension's
I'm
killing
happy
it.
to have one of the accountants from the state level reach out to you. It's how we have to do, the audit has to look like that. It has to show the long-term liability for the retirement of the employees. We're part of the state retirement system. That's how we've been told by the state we have to do it.
Right.
So I know it looks weird.
My question
And-
is specific,
Sorry,
though.
Mr. Kennedy might have a clarification for you.
I don't know about clarifying the question because I'm not sure you asked the question, but in terms of the how the long-term liability for those post-retirement benefits and other liabilities that the state has passed over to us is that there was a change in the accounting rules. I don't remember which year it was recently, last few years, where the accounting for that had to go into the entity's financial statements. So if you take a look at CCSD's financial statements, just like you would look at the charter schools, we now record that liability because of the change in the federal accounting rules with the Government Accounting Standards Board.
Yeah,
So
our
the-
actual cash balance was like $4.6 million at the end of January. So we've got 200 days of operating.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. The question, I trust y'all to run your organization, however is best for you guys, no questions. The question was specifically, I guess, to Ms. Williams, is in the event that we approve a charter and the unforeseen happens, that charter goes out, are we on the hook for the liabilities that we approve, financially speaking? So said it another way, are we on the hook for $8.5 million if for some reason this school doesn't succeed?
It's a great question. So there are a couple of things contingent upon what the school district's liability is. One, it's the structure of the contract on what is expressed as expenses that the charter will pick up versus the district. Charters have their own employees. They are not CCSD teachers and employees. So that's another piece when you're talking about OPEB liabilities and the liability of benefits. So it really depends on the structure of the contract. We have not analyzed their finances for this discussion, so I can't speak more intelligently to it at this particular time. But if you want us to look at it, we definitely can.
Well, I suppose the motion is specific to the education charter, not to the financial contract. So I don't think that'd be appropriate to direct the district to do that. Because if I understand the motion correctly, it's to ask the legal team to engage.
To engage in the contract.
Okay, well, then no questions.
Negotiation.
Yeah.
So we're clear on that. So if there is any financial concern that may come up from the finance, then it would be brought to the board
Yeah, I would expect.
for consideration of the final
Right, then that
contract.
comes up.
So we're
in
just really trying to
contract
get to the contract
discussions,
right
which
now.
will be in executive session after they have finished that. Am I not correct, Mr. Kennedy?
That's correct. So there's any financial concerns, we would bring those up. And then with the, what we can do with this particular liability, we can go back to the presentation, we can dig it up, that our external auditors gave to the Audit and Finance Committee and the board, whatever year that was, 2 or 3 years ago when this new rule came into effect. So, but I would say that with that specific liability, we are not at risk, but we would verify that.
Thank you both. Thank you for the clarification and congratulations. You guys are doing great work.
Any other questions? Then would Ms. Waters, would you prefer for me to read the motion again before we vote?
No.
Okay.
If you need it. No, we're good.
Okay. So if you will cast your vote and then confirm its accuracy. And the motion passes. We are on item 9C. There is a recommended action to move the calendar options A and B forward for public input through a survey on the CCSD website, which will be open on February 28th, 2023 through March 14th, 2023. And report the survey results to the board on March 27th, 2023 at the regularly called meeting. Do I hear a motion for this to go forward? So thank you, Ms. Waters. Moved it. Is there a second?
Second.
Dr. Temple seconds. Are there questions for Ms. Denny?
Can you read your motion again with the dates? Because I have something different on here.
I am reading from our agenda, the dates from our agenda.
Right. I'm looking at the public input survey will be open from March 1st, 2023. You said February 28th.
That is correct. They will open that tomorrow.
Okay, so I'm saying from what we are looking at, it says March 1st, 2023. Today is the 27th. So do we need to change the agenda to?
Mr. Calhoun, if I could bring clarity to that.
Yeah.
So the recommended action does not have to be followed by a board member. So I could make a motion that the sky is purple.
Right.
And that would still be, assuming it's on topic, that would be acceptable. So her motion is for the 28th, even though the recommended is for March 1.
I got that. I just want to make sure that we are making it clear that what's been posted is not, excuse me, what's being posted is not what the action was. I just want to make it completely clear that we're saying February 28th, you're just not reading what we have.
Is that not the intent, February 28th? Or is it?
We can have the survey open tomorrow. If the motion could read maybe by the close of business, I think that would be helpful.
So you had it initially intended for March 1st.
I did have it intended for March 1st to March 15th.
Okay, so I would like to just keep it as March 1st, the way they had it intended.
All right, I will rescind that February 28th and March 1st. And then are you okay with the rest of it?
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Certainly. Any questions for Ms. Denny or Ms.
Was there a particular reason why you were moving for the 28th?
Because that is the agenda I printed out.
Okay.
I just have like one question. I'm getting a lot of feedback with parents saying that they would prefer that all the half days be on. Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. I'm getting feedback from parents saying that they would like to have all the half days be on a Friday. Is that something that you will be taking into account, that feedback when the calendar is open, and then would maybe suggest changes to the calendar based on the feedback from others?
So no, ma'am, if we put forward options A and B both have 3 midweek early release days. There is one midweek teacher workday, which is important to note. It's January 24th on both calendar options. That midweek teacher workday affords teachers the time between the end of semester 1 and the start of semester 2.
Yeah, I get that mid calendar date, but I was just wondering if is now the time that we would need to make a recommendation to have all of the early release days be on Friday?
Yes, ma'am. If we wanted to put forth calendar options with all of the early release days on Friday, that would be a part of the motion.
You see, you looked at it and it didn't work.
Yeah, it would work for it all to be on Fridays, the half days, except for where it's between the semesters when teachers need to work on their report cards and that kind of thing.
Yes, ma'am. So the January 24th teacher workday, my recommendation is that that would not be feasible to move to a Friday. There are 3 midweek early release days. One falls in October, one falls in February, and the other falls in May. It would be feasible to study 2 calendar options that would move those to a Friday if that's the board's will.
So Ms. McKinney, would you accept a friendly amendment to add the direction to the district?
I think I made a motion.
Oh, did you make the motion? I'm sorry. It's late. I need coffee.
If I may,
Right.
if I may, just for one very quick moment, just call to attention that when we submitted the calendar review for staff, that calendar review had only Friday early release days. Staff, teachers, academic leaders all recommended that there was a mix of both, which is why the calendar options appear with a mixture of both. So both calendar options have 5 Friday early release days and 3 midweek early release days.
Can you share with us why they wanted both and not all Fridays?
There was, the feedback that I received indicated that folks felt as though the early release time might be more useful midweek than on a Friday.
I'm sorry, I don't think I actually know what that means. Why would it be more useful on a Friday over a Wednesday?
I think in terms of planning for professional development.
I see. Well, no, I don't actually, but
Yeah, also I would want to put in, we are really pushing it with trying to get this calendar out right now. I think we should definitely explore that for one of the upcoming calendars, especially if we can work on trying to get the calendar pushed out for 2 years as opposed to just 1. But right now, we really got to get this calendar out as soon as possible.
I think it's fairly early, easily to move. I mean, I did ask Ms. Dunny about that it is fairly easy to move those 3 days. And it's just feedback. Parents are just saying it's just better for childcare and, you know, family time and so on to just have it on Friday, and makes for a longer weekend. Families like to do things together. So that seemed to be an overriding interest from parents. You know, I don't know.
I completely agree, but I've heard the same feedback. Ms. Denny, would in your estimate, if we were to ask for the district to give us options that only had Friday release date, early release times, how much longer would you need to put those options together to adjust the 2 that you have and move them all to Fridays?
I can certainly do it by the March 1st.
2 days?
Sure.
Okay.
Mr. Kennedy has a comment.
So yes, we can turn that around quickly. I would also state that under one of the 5 guardrails, one of those guardrails says that the superintendent shall not bring any major initiative or recommendation to the school board that's going to impact multiple stakeholders without stakeholder engagement. So what Ms. Denny has presented here is a balance between what the parents need and what the school principals and teachers are saying they need to be able to manage within their school building through these 8 days. So the compromise, if you will, is 5 days for Friday and then three midweek days.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. That's how we arrived at that. It was an effort to balance the feedback.
That's kind of just my 2 cents. That's what I was hearing from you, that it was negotiated and this was kind of a balance of coming together.
That's the hope.
Can we call for?
So is there more discussion?
No. Can we-
Any amendments? All right, then we will call
Leave
for the
motion as it
vote.
is. Okay. If you will cast and confirm for accuracy your vote. And the motion passes. Okay. We are on to item 9D, topics for discussion at committee of the whole meeting. Dr. Temple, would you like to comment on this before there's a motion stated?
I think you can state the motion.
Okay. The recommended action is that we create a Google survey for board members to prioritize topics for discussion and add 2 to 3 additional topics for their own interest to guide educational discussions and decisions at committee of the whole meetings and or school board retreat. Do I hear someone to move this recommended action to a motion? Dr.
Second.
Temple moves. Is there a second?
Second.
And Mr. Calhoun seconds. Is there discussion? Then we will have our vote. If you will cast your vote and confirm it. And the motion carries. We are on to item 9E, understanding student testing. There is a motion for a recommended action for a motion that the district staff provide presentations at committee of the whole and workshops on both formative and summative student testing in the K-12 schools for ELA, math, science, social studies, high school courses, and skills related to careers and technology. Do I hear a motion for this to go forward?
I so move.
Dr. Temple moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Bailey seconds. Is there discussion? Then we will call for the vote. Please confirm your vote after you cast it. And the motion carries. We are on to item 10A, the spring 2023 bond anticipation notes. There is a recommended action that we have a motion to approve the spring 2023 bond anticipation notes in the amounts of but not exceeding $70 million for the series 2023A, not exceeding $135 million for the series 2023B, and not exceeding the $2 million taxable series 2023 to fund the 6 items that are on the agenda posted for the board and the public. Do I hear a motion for this to go forward?
So move.
Mr. Calhoun moves. Is there
I'll
a
second
second?
it.
and Mr. Grabowski seconds. Is there discussion or questions for Ms. Williams or comments from Ms. Williams?
No comments.
Any questions? So the public doesn't think we're rushing through. We did a lot of homework and we sat through a long workshop.
Get a 2-hour workshop on this.
And I think it should be noted also that to the public that if you go online and read some of these documents that we presented, that it's very well represented why we need to be taking these actions. And I think the district is very transparent in their needs, and I really commend them for doing that. So, but we did spend an awful lot of time.
Complicated work.
So we will call for the vote. If you will cast your vote and then confirm its accuracy.
I know after that workshop, I personally feel a lot more confident in my vote.
Thank you.
And the motion passes. We're on to item 10B, fixed cost of ownership for the fiscal year 24 project list. There is a recommended action for a motion to approve the prioritized list of projects under the fixed cost of ownership fiscal year 24 project list as submitted for the public and the board. Do I hear a motion for it to proceed?
So move.
Mr. Grabowski moves and Ms. Watley seconds. Are there questions or comments that Mr. Bowry would like to make?
Once again, for the public's information, this goes through oh, I'm sorry. Did I?
Go ahead.
All right.
Yes, please.
This goes through a really extensive review process, starting with the committee and then the committee of the whole. And then we've had some great presentations. And I think the board is starting to understand how some of this works and why some of the other reports that we go through and approve, are followed through. So I fully support what we're doing. And I commend the district for being pretty transparent with it.
And I also commend the district for paying attention to all of these needs and being proactive on the repairs, because it's important that we keep our facilities in good condition so that it's a positive learning environment for our teachers and students.
Any other comments or questions? Then we will call for the vote. Please confirm the vote that you cast is accurate. And the motion passes. We are on to item 10C, procurements greater than $250,000. There's a recommended action for us to approve projects on the attached list, the list available to the board and the public. Is there a motion to move this forward?
So moved.
Mr. Grabowski makes the first and Ms. Watley the second. Are there questions for discussion? Then we will call for the question. Please confirm your vote after it is cast. And the motion passes. We're on item 10D, 2023 to 2028 capital programs, which are the Phase 5 long-term debt projects. This is for information. Ms. Shaw, are there comments you'd like to make about it?
No comments. Thank you.
All right. The background and the items are on the agenda posted for the public and for the board. Then we will move on to item 10E, Capital Projects Report, December 2022. This is for information. Ms. Costello, is there anything you would like to add to the report that was published online for the board and for the public?
No, ma'am, I do not have anything else.
Are there any questions for Ms. Costello out of the side of the reports? All right, we will proceed to item 10F, the monthly financial update for information. Again, these reports were posted online for the board and the public. Are there any questions for Ms. Williams or Ms. Williams, or is there anything you would like to address?
No comment.
Your swan song and no comment? Really? You can't even say you're leaving us at a good stage?
I will say that, Mr. Grabowski.
Thank you.
We're projecting to close out the year with an anticipation of putting $11 million back into fund balance due to a local increase in revenue, a decrease in expenses, and our vacancy savings on salary and benefits.
Wasn't that hard though?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We are on to item 11A, Policy Amendment BC Board Meeting Protocol. There's a recommended action for a motion to approve the first reading of the amended Policy BC Board Meeting Protocol. Is there a motion for this to move forward?
I make a motion.
Ms. Watley moves for it to go forward. Is there a second? And Mr. Kelly seconds. We are open for discussion.
I'll open the discussion. We've received a lot of input on this particular policy, and I shared with my fellow board members 3 emails today that came, 2 from Christian churches, 1 from a synagogue, and all 3 of those ministers recommend not supporting this particular policy. And I think Ms. Cleveland, who read Reverend Rutledge's letter, identified the reasons why. We are in a diverse community, and it will be respectful for us to pray personally rather than in public. I have concerns, with the policy in terms of where it would be, how it would be isolated from the public and so on. And so I'm just going to read my own personal statement here. It is with due respect to my colleagues and the community that I believe that board members who want to have a prayer can do that as an individual, privately, outside of this boardroom, and before the board starts its meeting. During the meeting, the pledge and moment of silence are legal and permissible and are consistent with an individual's own faith or conscience. Changes to policy BC are unnecessary and potentially illegal. Thank you.
Are there other comments or discussion?
As the originator of the policy, I just wanted to point out that this policy is well within line of South Carolina state law, code 6-1.160. And the policy is a direct copy paste from another policy that is already in place in Charleston County School District, allowing the exact same invocation for sporting events, as well as it is again a copy paste of the opinion letter that was put out by the Fourth Circuit, which is the one that we fall under, that allows for this type of thing on a deliberative body. We have gotten some feedback where people are referencing the Ninth Circuit, but we don't live in California, so the Ninth Circuit opinion is irrelevant to this case.
Question. What is the exact point of this?
Oh, I suppose you weren't here. I apologize. I just occurred to me.
No, I was watching, but I'm just asking, what is the point?
So
how is this moving forward to students?
So as the policy liaison, I'm going through our policies literally one by one and helping to bring what the board is currently doing in line with what the policy says by either helping us adjust our behavior or adjusting the policy. The previous board, with some level of regularity, open meetings with prayers specifically for folks that had deceased and for wisdom of the board making decisions. And so this is an adjustment of the policy to make what is already been established in tradition, as it were, in line with our policy.
Any other discussion?
I think that I just want to make a comment versus the prayer at sporting events. Those are student-led. Prayer here at the board, we are elected officials, government officials. There is a difference, and the school law speaks to that.
Any other comments or questions? Then we will call for the vote. If you would cast your vote and then confirm its accuracy. And the motion passes. We are on to item 11B, policy amendment, BDG staff attorney outside counsel for a second reading. The recommended action is that there is a motion to approve the second reading of amended policy BDG, staff attorney / outside legal counsel. Is there a motion for this to go forward?
I move.
Ms. Watley moves. Is there a second?
Second.
And Ms. Bailey seconds. Is there discussion?
Just as a quick brief for the board, this is very similar. It's bringing the policy in alignment with what's currently happening, permitting for the outside counsel to act as parliamentarian for the board, as well as clarifying the role of outside counsel versus a staff attorney. And there was some change to the language. The header didn't match some of the phrasing in the policy and things like that. It was a pretty grammatical correction in most cases.
Thank you. Any other comments? Then we will call for the vote. Please cast your vote and confirm it for accuracy. And the motion passes. We are to item 13 with the closing items of upcoming meetings. The information is
The consent.
that the consent agenda was passed at the beginning with the agenda when we approved it.
Madam Chair, if I may clarify, the motion I made was to add items 11C and D to the consent agenda. And then it would be proper for the board to vote to approve the consent items as a package.
Which we did when we voted on the agenda.
I thought we just voted to move them to the consent.
That was my understanding as well, but I could have been wrong.
Is there a way that we can verify that?
That's what
The-
happens when you approve the minutes, you approve, excuse me, you approve the agenda, you approve the consent items as well.
I see.
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions about that before we go on to the upcoming meetings? March 13th, Committee of the Whole, March 27th, the board meeting, April 24th, there will be a combined Committee of the Whole and board meeting due to the spring break. Do I hear a motion that we adjourn?
I move.
Ms. Watley moves. Is there a second? We are adjourned.